This podcast is brought to you by Pragmatic Play, a leading game developer providing player favorites to the most successful brands across the industry. With an award-winning multi-product portfolio of slots, live casino, bingo, virtual sports, and more, Pragmatic Play is powering up new possibilities of play through one single API. Visit pragmaticplay.com and discover your favorite every time.
So, Valentina, it's great to have you back here on the podcast. Of course, we started the series with SOFTSWISS early in the year together, you and me, and we are finishing the year together as well.
You're right. 1 year ago, right? 1 year ago we met here in this studio.
That's
and I guess it was like period when you just opened this studio.
Yeah. You were one of the first ones.
So we can celebrate.
That we can.
Yeah,
cheers to that. It's definitely water
Cheers.
in this glass, unfortunately. So today we are here because Valentina and SOFTSWISS has released a really interesting major report on 2024 trends in the iGaming industry. It's a great report. It's like 60 pages long with a huge amount of interesting insights.
Did you manage to read it?
I read everything. Yes.
Really? Me too.
I read everything. I can imagine you read it more than once, probably.
Yeah, right.
No, I blocked off some time here yesterday to dive into it, and it was really interesting to get a really good snapshot. And I can definitely recommend anyone who's listening in here today to check out this report. It's free to get access to. We're gonna put a link in the post in the description here, so anyone can get access to this as well. But I wanted to talk to you about this report today, Valentina. Can you first of all, summarize the findings in this report, and also talk a little bit more about the work that goes into this report, because it's so versatile with so much expertise in it from very different fields of the industry. So I'm just curious to know, how did you even produce this report?
Yeah, I agree. But I will start. Thank you for the question, because it's very interesting to speak how we did it.
Yep.
Of course, for us, interesting, of course. But I would start not from this report. I want to go back, 3 years back when I came to SOFTSWISS and started to work on first marketing strategy for SOFTSWISS. And of course, the first part of each marketing strategy is analytical part. And I started to gather information, and I started to look for some information about the industry, some data, some numbers, and I understood that our industry lacks of all this information. And of course, I tried to search a bit deeper into very close to our industry to get some insight, but still it's not iGaming, video games or other stuff, not iGaming. And at that moment, I just decided, oh my God, why big industry and no one presents any trends, any analytical data about the industry? Of course, I could find something, but it's not like in one place, not everything together. And I got used to get this information because previously I worked in FMCG, and biggest companies, every year they presented something very interesting, special about the trends. But it took me and my team 2 years to get ready to release the first report. And first report we did last year, and of course we looked deeper last year into the industry. We got different data from our game aggregator, like one of the biggest aggregator in the industry. We dive deeper into our customers' insights, and in the end it was like first report with trends for 2023. But this year, keeping in mind what we did last year, I guess we did even bigger job. We really did like a massive research of the industry, and we have a lot of sources, not like very much, but still different sources. First of all, we did constantly monitoring of media, iGaming media. So we looked precisely what our competitors, what other players in the industry do, how do they react to different changes into the industry. So it's like a very precise analysis of media presence and news in the media during the whole year. Then, of course, we did different customer research within our company. we want to understand the insights of our customers, which insights do they have. So we did a lot of research to understand what do they want, what do they want to do in the future, and it also like one of the part of the iGaming trend report. Then we have a lot of data from our game aggregator because, as I said, probably this is at this period of time is one of the biggest game aggregator in the industry because we can get like more than 10 billion bets per month, so it's pretty big. And of course, we have a lot of data about customers' behavior, players' behavior, and we got some information from this source. And we did quantitative survey to collect some data to understand some trends, attitudes of industry players to some trends, to some cases that happened during this year. And then the content team and analytical team, they gathered all this information together. They divided this information into different topics. They talked to industry experts to understand if they see the right tendencies, because tendencies, just tendencies, probably it's right, probably it's not, but still they did some interviews, and in the end we got this report. And now in this report we covered several topics, but of course one of the most important topics that we cover in this report is regulation, because this is something that will shape the industry, I believe, during next years, not even 2024, but upcoming years, maybe 2, 3, 5 years, or even 10 years, because now we are just in the stage of the beginning of real market growth and development, because regulation is just establishing a different market, and a lot of markets, they are working with international licenses. A lot of markets don't have even like first steps in regulation, so it will be like a big trend for many years. And technology development. Of course, a lot of people say about artificial intelligence, machine learning, but I cannot say that we implement everything that we can implement in the industry. So there are a lot of things to do, I believe. So, of course, from SOFTSWISS point of view, we are trying to do, and we are doing a lot of things, but I'm sure that we can do even more and more. Then the other part of the report, it's like game development, what is interesting for our players, what do they want to get from the industry, from the game. It's about tournaments and other stuff similar to these. Then marketing part, of course.
The most important part, right?
Yeah, and even even I can say that probably we can prepare something more precise about marketing, because, as I said, we can get a lot of data from our products that we have, and share this data with industry too. Security and cybersecurity, I believe this topic during 2023 was pretty important, like hot topic. And the payment system, because of course for our industry it's also interesting and important. So these groups of information we have in trend report, and some interesting data about this as well. What did you find the most interesting for yourself while reading this report?
Valentina, I think first and foremost, just going back to what you mentioned earlier, the fact that it's really difficult to find information about the industry, and it doesn't seem that there's that many companies who are sharing these type of reports. Mm-hmm. It's something we've been thinking about a lot, and I think actually it relates to the fact that the industry is really complex as an industry, mm-hmm. and there isn't actually that many companies who can see the industry from a 360-degree mm-hmm. view. So you have, for example, game suppliers, they see the industry from their corner. Obviously, sports betting suppliers from their corner. Even the operators have a very specific view mm-hmm. from their perspective and so on. And so there isn't that many companies like SOFTSWISS who actually has kind of like almost like a full 360 degree. Yeah. So I think even if other companies wanted to write these type of reports, they probably wouldn't be able to cover the industry like this. They would probably be able to write like niche reports on mm-hmm. a specific question. but not as a holistic picture. And it's something that we think a lot about at Next as well. Is there a need for someone to aggregate this kind of data and information better to give a better snapshot of the industry? Because even new people who start in the industry, newcomers, I mean, when you started 3 years ago, you need to learn about the industry. You need to understand it. You need to, like, how does this industry work? What is an aggregator? What is a sports betting supplier, and how do they kind of work together? And it's quite difficult to find this kind of overview information that even explains what the industry is. Because again, the industry is different depending on who you speak to, let's say. So I just wanted to mention that first and foremost. And secondly, on the report itself, I think for me what's really interesting is to see the breakdown of the different emerging markets. It was really interesting to see the geolocations that you pinpointed here, and I was really surprised to see the market volume of some of the geographics. For example, Peru is listed as a similar kind of market value. It's not that far off from Brazil, for example, and that was something that I was quite surprised by, actually. And you list some other interesting geos there as well. I think you talked as well about, like, can't remember if South Africa is there as well. And I remember having conversations with people at your stand at Sigma as well, who pointed out that South Africa is a really interesting up and coming geo as well, that we definitely should keep an eye on.
Yeah, it's true. This year it was Latin America. Next year also Latin America, I believe. But South Africa is somewhere there as well.
Yeah, exactly. And interesting to see now in Africa, kind of like what are going to be the first markets that are really taking off the way we've seen Brazil take off now with the emergence of technology and so on over there. So I found that was really interesting. You talk as well about the kind of push for AI and machine learning, and I thought it was quite interesting to see as well that kind of most of the people that you surveyed think AI is something that is going to kind of propel their organizations, but at the same time, it was quite interesting to see as well that there were still, like, I don't know, like 25% or something that didn't really pinpoint AI as like one of the most emerging, interesting emerging technologies.
Yeah, I believe it's so, because we were talking about AI for so long period of time that some things from AI became like our reality, and we even didn't notice how it happened like that. Yeah. That's why people just don't pay attention to that. The other thing is that, in any industry, and especially in industry but all industries, they are working with consumers, customers, players. AI is just like an instrument. And first of all, you need to understand what for you are going to use this instrument. And in our case, of course, we need to understand the insights and the needs of our players. And only then, after that, you can just think, I want to do this. I understand that my players, they want to have this. They want to play like that. They want to have these tournaments. They want to have some additions to the game. And only after that, you can use AI. And I guess the problem right now that we are just AI, it's something very like up to date. Let's use AI. What for? Let's create pictures. Very nice, very interesting. But still, first of all, of course, we need to understand what for we can use it. And we can use it, of course, for data analysis, because AI give us limitless opportunities to understand consumers inside. Does everyone now use it for analytic things? I'm not sure, but of course we can do it. Of course, it's important to do that. Then, do we really deeply understand what our players want? Do they want to play with this game? Do they want to play that long? Do they really want to protect themselves or not? Of course, AI can help us, but again, first of all, we need to understand consumers, players, insights, and only after that decide how AI can help us, how machine learning, which information machine learning can give us to understand this. Everything should go from the consumers, players, customers, and only then we should decide which instruments we can use. And I believe that AI and machine learning can give us a lot.
Yeah.
But first of all, we need to understand what do we want.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that someone just don't understand, or if understand, they really don't know how to better implement everything that technology can give to us.
Yeah, and also I think even if you have the right ideas and you can kind of create mental models in your mind of how you want to utilize AI and machine learning models, the second step then is to actually create them. And the kind of software engineers and those who are experts in the field of AI, it's there's a lack of these professionals in the world, right? And we have these massive tech giants that are vacuuming up the entire kind of like the knowledge base there, that is becomes quite difficult even for organizations to hire the right people who can actually create these models. I was in a webinar just a week or two ago with the former head of AI for Volvo. You know, you live in Gothenburg, near a company near and dear to our heart, of course. And she talked about a lot of companies and professionals. They want to just create the machine learning algorithm and model and then implement it. But she said actually the success of kind of a successful AI strategy for any given company is to not forget about actually setting up the right infrastructure before, and there's a lot of work that need to be done before on a technical front, before you can implement the ML models and so on. That makes it just a lot more complex.
Yeah, it's true.
And I suppose that is also to some extent what's holding perhaps companies back. It's just, where do you even begin? Right?
Yeah, I agree. I understand that. Of course, you need to of course, technical part is very important. But when you are starting to implement, especially when we are talking about machine learning, you need to do a lot of tests, because sometimes the mistake can be somewhere that you don't expect where it can happen. And it's very important to be very precise, to have high profession. But again, I would say, I will do a step back. First of all, you need to understand what for you're doing this, because sometimes you can waste a lot of time to develop some model, but then in a year or in 2 years, you just will understand that market doesn't need it. And you wasted a lot of time on creating something what is not important. And this is also a problem with AI and machine learning, I believe. Time.
Yeah, 100%. You know, and that's where like there needs to be a good collaboration with a really strong CTO who understands the technology, and then perhaps the CMO or the CEO or the product manager who has the idea, and they need to kind of marry the two together.
Because sometimes it doesn't worth to waste so many time on something that, for example, in a year will not be needed.
Yeah, for sure.
Because industry is developing quite fast, and we are not like separate industry. I mean, gaming, we are developing in the sphere much bigger than just iGaming.
Yeah, true. So Valentina, if I ask you the question back, I was keen to know as well, in the report or the 60 pages, like was there anything perhaps you were surprised over in the results in the report? Did you have any interesting findings that stood out to you in any way? It'd be interesting to hear your
interesting finding. You know, I would say about one thing that I really was surprised, because there are a lot of interesting information and a lot of useful information to understand the industry, especially to understand regulation, I would say, because to this part we devoted a lot of time and a lot of space in our report. But one thing that I was surprised, it's about responsible gambling, and we did a survey. We asked questions about pretty much questions about responsible gambling to industry players, industry experts, and we asked what do they think about responsible gambling. Is it important? What can it give to the industry? And the number of 16% of respondents who said that they believe that responsible gambling will help to develop their brand, will help to become stronger. I was surprised by this low number, not big, but low number. And this just shows one more time that all companies, especially big players in the industry, should work more and more on that, should work more to popularize this topic of responsible gambling, because first of all, we need to think about our players. First of all, we need to think about those who open laptop or their mobile phone and start to gamble. And responsible gambling is created for that. It's like a part of the industry development, and unfortunately not like a high number of people, like percentage of people think that it's important, and it's industry players. But I believe that industry will change, because, for example, if we ask, I believe, alcohol industry players or tobacco industry players, of course they will say, no, all these responsible things, yes, very important, but so difficult to implement, decrease our profit, do something else. Exactly. Be honest, let's be honest here. But still understanding that it's important for industry growth, for safety reasons, important to make the industry more mature. Yeah,
and especially from an industry perspective, right? We've seen massive regulatory setbacks because of the faults and the mistakes that the industry have done from an RG perspective. In Sweden, for example, the massive marketing push that took place that was quite irresponsible at times, that led to a kind of that led to a pullback and kind of resistance from the players and on a political level, that led to a lot of pushback for the industry over there, and it's obviously not good for the industry at all. And then we kind of start sliding down this regulatory slippery slope where the regulators are just trying to make it more and more difficult for the industry to exist, right? And at the end of the day, there is a small number of players that are not able to properly enjoy the session of gambling for what it's supposed to be. And if the industry can just protect this small consortium of players, then we don't have much to be ashamed over as an industry, let's say, and we can with confidence kind of build the industry in a more sustainable way. But the issue, I suppose, is that individual operators many times they don't see this long-term perspective. They think about profits from a short-term perspective, and no one single operator want to try to fix the whole problem, let's say.
It's true. That's why I think that big players in the market should be like pushers of this trend development. Because big players, I believe that all big players, they think strategically, they plan their future, and they understand that there is no other way. Because gambling is not unique industry, and they understand what happened in other industries, such as we said, like tobacco industry, alcohol industry. So there is no other way just to implement responsible gambling practices in the operations. And I believe that when big players start to do that, smaller one will follow, because again, there will be no other opportunity for them.
I'm curious to know, Valentina, actually, you worked in both tobacco and alcohol, and I'm curious to know, it seems to me from an outside perspective that the alcohol industry has kind of like found its identity and acceptance in society, and whereas the tobacco industry, from a regulatory perspective, is an industry where the regulators are trying to do whatever they can to choke the industry more and more, like more and more restrictions, and it's kind of like, it feels like it's being phased out, like slowly but surely. Do you have any thoughts of what is the difference between the, like, what did alcohol do different than cigarettes in order to thrive in, even though being a product that can be damaging to you?
Really, tobacco industry and alcohol industry, they are different.
Yes.
And the way of their growth and development under these regulations is also different. Because, for example, speaking of alcohol, we understand that it's about like premiumization, about higher price, about decreasing the consumption through these instruments. Yeah. In tobacco industries, there is a different way. They started to work on this so-called less harmful products in tobacco industry, like IQOS and other brands that biggest industry players started to develop. And this is like their response to regulation. Because, for example, Philip Morris, I believe that they started to work on IQOS development maybe in early 20s. So it was many years ago. Because at that period of time, they understand that regulation will become tougher and tougher, and that industry itself is not like very well accepted by society, and they need to create something like a response to this situation. So they started to develop this low harmful product like IQOS, and then other industry players they started to do the same. But Philip Morris is leader again, as a leader in the market, was the first who did this system. I will not discuss if it's good or if it's not, but it's like response to responsible, all these responsible things.
Yeah.
Alcohol industry is a bit different. They didn't like decrease their presence in general. No. They still have alcohol. We still can drink alcohol, but they're working on the image of alcohol. They're trying to make it more expensive. They're trying to show that less consumption is better consumption, do quality consumption of alcohol, not try to drink as much as possible. And it's also very important, and industry players trying to work on that. And biggest again are in front of everyone in these activities. And I believe the same, gambling industry is very close to alcohol industry. We will do work just on the quality. We will do on we will work on player safety, and we will create like safer environment for players. We will explain, like in biggest industry players, we will explain to industries that gambling is just entertainment. And entertainment is what every people want to do. And this entertainment can be safe. This entertainment can be interesting, nice, cool. But of course, to do that, we need to implement and to do a lot of steps just to create this environment. And again, to make the industry socially accepted.
Yeah. Because you're a marketer and Valentina, and a very good one as well, of course. And I feel that in the alcohol industry has been able to create a really good image of what positive alcohol consumption can be. You can imagine, the football fan just winning a game and cheering with his friend with a beer, and Carlsberg, you have an even greater time with a beer in your hand, and football and the bottle of beer goes hand in hand, and there's a lot of it's very easy to build these exciting moments with alcohol, let's say, and from an online gambling perspective, if you want to build a cool and acceptable image to what it means to consume this entertainment, I feel that maybe that's where the industry hasn't been able to create yet. Like, how do you create that? Because as you were saying, it's an entertaining product, and it's fun and exciting, but it's a bit more difficult to explain that visually, perhaps, than what the alcohol industry can do.
Probably yes, but again, we should look deeper into the people who are so-called consuming gambling right now. Because I believe that, for example, for conservative consumers or players, let's say over 40 years old, over 50 years old, these games will be like slots, and they will do it in very traditional way.
Yeah.
And for them, I don't believe that we can change something, and industry can change something. But for Gen Z, for example, for those who are coming, of course, we can create a lot of new opportunities based on the insights that we see. It can be more gamification, more social games, maybe social casino, which will be like entry level for casino games, something that is really very exciting and interesting. So I believe that this can be done through different games, through different experience that you can get within, not just pressing the button to make this slot machine to work, yes, but to involve and to make a player like a part of the game. And I believe that games in general are going into that side, but for Gen Z, not for older consumers.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry to say that, but we should take into account different age groups. It's like,
for sure,
as usually in marketing.
I can tell you, like, if you want to create a good kind of advertisement for how fun gambling can be, you should have come by like our bets on offices when I worked there like 12 years ago, and we used to like say for like a Friday after work, we used to put on the slot machine, and we all would chip in like 20 euro each. So the whole team would put 20 euro, we deposited, and then we let the slot to auto spin while we were doing after work. And then whatever money was left after the after work, we would take it and we would go out and have a party together. And either it would be like a very good party, or it would be like not that good. We just had so much fun, you know. We were watching, we were winning together, and we were cheering together, and we would always do that. Like we would always, whenever there was like a really big jackpot, for example, we would do the same. We would be sitting at the office working, and then on the TV screen next, there would be the jackpot slot would roll in the background, and then whenever it goes into the bonus game, we would all gather and be excited and like, okay, maybe this is the time we will become millionaires or whatever.
But again, it's what you said. It's like social interaction, because it's also part of the game, and that's why it's such instruments which can help to increase this excitement of social interaction, as like jackpot systems, tournament tools. Now it's very like important for industry growth and development, and to make the player experience better and more interesting.
So back to the report here, Valentina. It's two marketing minds. We start going completely off the track here. If we go back to the report. So last year you released the first report, as you mentioned, and you made some predictions of what trends would be prevalent in 2023. Can you talk about this in hindsight? How did these predictions play out?
Yeah, you know, my team prepared for me some notes, like hints, tips for me, just to remind about what we said in our recent report. I looked through that and... Surprise, surprise. First, of course, it's like localized regulatory. It was something that we were talking about in our previous report. It is something that we are talking right now, because this is like a long-term trend, I believe. So we were talking about that. And what happened during this year, it's like Brazil, it happens. Happening, you're right. United Arab Emirates, they are now thinking about implementing regulations. Curacao and the changes in regulation. So we see that this is like a trend, and it's like long-lasting trend, and we believe it will be the same in 2024. So we are still will be moving in the direction of local regulation. Then one more interesting thing that we were talking about last year, it was push for responsible gambling practices.
Right.
So very good prediction, I believe. And we added this into this report as well, because we believe it's also like long-lasting trend, and it will be something that will shape the landscape of the industry in 2024, and I believe even longer. Then data-driven decision-making. Not a big surprise, of course, but still it's like something that we think that like trend and long-lasting trend, and we believe that in 2024 it also will be like something that will again move our industry forward. And again, technology, artificial intelligence, machine learning, deeper understanding of our players, anti-fraud systems, everything about that. So I would stop on these three, but of course mobile gambling dominance, but I don't believe that this is a surprise for someone, that mobile dominance will just growing. Of course, for example, if we look in different markets, maybe in some market the level of mobile gaming will be lower, in some market higher, but still in general the share of mobile gambling is growing and will continue to grow. And again, responsible gambling practices probably will help to interact better with Apple Store and Google Play, and maybe one day this also will be like a place for casinos, interesting, like I don't know, games, and gambling.
Yeah, interesting. I think, like to me, if I were to summarize the year of 2023 into like one word for the industry, I would summarize it into localization. We see it, obviously I come from the conference and media side of the industry, and we can clearly see this trend happening, right? Like if we go back a couple of years, the industry was very European centric, and the only relevant trade shows that existed in the industry were all based in Europe, and there were maybe 3 or 4 of them, and that was the entire conference and event landscape. Nowadays, we are all keeping you very busy.
It's true.
There's 100 shows in the industry today that are all relevant for depending on which market you're active in. So these days, it's not all about the big, massive shows anymore. It is becoming more and more about the more targeted local shows to meet the local operators, because back in the day, all the operators would be based in Europe, and they would have their operations in Europe, and they would maybe be active in the emerging markets. But these days, you have a lot of the kind of local heroes, especially in Latin America. You have, the operators in Brazil are based in Brazil. The operators in Peru are based in Peru, and so you need to be there if you want to acquire them as customers. In general in the industry, we can see that kind of like the expertise of the industry is much more spread out now, rather than everyone being based in London, Malta, or Gibraltar, or Isle of Man. That was like the entire industry before. And also, this is something, we are recording here in Malta now, of course, and Malta has kind of been known as the kind of Vegas of online gambling, if you will. That is also something that is being somewhat phased out, if you will, where the industry is not all based in Malta anymore. Again, much more localized approach, a lot more local regulations in local jurisdictions, and it puts a lot more pressure on even the bigger operators and the medium-sized operators to be present, not just with a head office, but to be present everywhere else. And I know that the discussions, like on a political level here in Malta, is what will happen? Like, will Malta lose its value that it's always had with the strong local regulation and kind of the infrastructure that exists here and all the professionals and so on? And I think as well that the industry at the same time has grown so much. So all the companies that are based here, even though the industry is growing a lot on a local level, even here in Malta, the industry is growing at the same time. Because if we go back like 4 years or something, 4 or 5 years, I would love to see a study on this, but I bet that if you look at how many professionals there are in the iGaming industry on a global level, I would not be surprised if there would be like 3 times, 4 times as many professionals in the industry today than what it was in like 2018, 2019, for example.
Oh, I agree with you. And looking even at SOFTSWISS, 3 years ago, we were around 400 people. Now we are 2,000 people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we are
Christ.
growing. And this also reflects the industry development.
Yeah.
Because the penetration, we say internet penetration, mobile phone penetration, but I believe all over the world, industry penetration is growing.
Yeah.
And regulation also helps to increase the penetration of industry in each region. Because look at LATAM. 3 years ago, who were talking about LATAM? Almost no one, yeah. And now when regulation started to develop there, a lot of players, suppliers, operators, just like went there completely, and like LATAM is like new mecca now.
Yeah, exactly.
For everyone.
Yeah.
And I believe, now everyone came to LATAM, market will be established there, and then all this bunch of operators, people, suppliers will go to another market. to another region, and like will harvest on another region.
Yeah. And so, what do you think? So at the moment, all eyes are on Latin America, especially Brazil. You know, down the line is Peru, Chile, so on. What do you think will be the next move for the industry?
I have two options. Not surprised. Just two. Probably Africa or Asia. Asia and Pacific.
Yeah, it's two massive, obviously, continents.
Yes.
With a lot of people.
Of course, a lot of people, as their penetration again of internet is growing.
Yes.
And
that's the key growth driver, I suppose.
Yeah, because when
internet
penetration, people start to consume different online things, entertainment, games, shops, everything, and gambling as well. And that's why I think maybe even Asia will be more interesting during. By the way, based on our survey, people in the industry, experts from the industry, mentioned that, of course, first interest for them is Latin America, and the second, indeed, like Asia and Pacific region.
Yeah.
Like region of interest. But I believe that Africa still is like very interesting to understand what is happening there, to go, to try. And of course, the one who first will come, who will establish there, will win. Yeah, exactly.
And if you look forward now into 2024, Valentina, you predicted the trends for this year. It turns out that it panned out well. What predictions do you and SOFTSWISS have for the following year in terms of trends?
I will not surprise you again, because I believe that the main thing that were happening during this year, they will continue in the next year. It's about localization. So I believe that we will get, industry will see new local licenses, probably as a response to Curacao changes. There will be one more or maybe two more international licenses in the world in the next year. Responsible gambling, player-centric, everything around player will also like shape the industry too. So I guess these things like regulations, new regulations, responsible gambling and everything connected with responsible gambling, and player-centric, everything regarding players. Especially in this situation with this new cookieless era, I guess it also will like influence a lot on the opportunities of operators and on their relationship with players.
And the cookieless future was one of the points that we're mentioning, kind of emerging technologies and so on. Can you talk a little bit more about the cookieless future, what it will mean? I mean, you're a marketer, obviously. This is top of your agenda, I would imagine. Can you talk first, what is the cookieless future? What is it that's changing with Google's kind of push to, and what will this mean to marketers, gaming or non-gaming?
I would say that like that. Every time when environment is becoming more difficult, marketers are becoming more creative.
Yep.
So this is, let's see, a cookieless era is an opportunity for a new instruments development. Of course, first of all, like a first response to that, still we are not like in cookieless era, but we are moving that there. First of all, we need to start. I believe everyone started this already, to collect first parties data. This is very important now to do that, and after that, just new instruments, new opportunities, geo-targeting, new instruments of promotion. This is like the thing that marketers should do to overcome this like barrier that is coming to us.
Yeah.
But just to be more creative, I guess this is the main answer to any changes which we are facing quite often in the environment. Yeah. Be more creative, be well prepared, of course. Be more creative and be well prepared, because it's not like a news. We didn't get this news yesterday. We knew about that pretty long time ago. So of course, a good preparation, and I hope that most of the operators and suppliers did this like homework before it happened.
Yeah, and it's the current plan is for mid 2024.
Mid 24, I guess June, July, something like that.
Yeah, insane. And so if we turn the question around, then we talked about the predictions of 2024, but do you see any anti-trends for 2024? As in, is there anything that the industry should not pay attention to or look out for?
Interesting topic. Sometimes can be fun. But before we will go to that question, could you please share your predictions? Very interesting to know. How do you think? What can happen in 2024?
I like it, Valentina. You have talent in hosting a podcast. So
sorry.
if you ever need a second side gig, the door is open here.
Thank you very much. We'll keep it in mind.
Good.
We'll not tell about that to Ivan.
No, exactly. Don't worry. This is between us.
Only between us.
I think going into 2024, a big trend, and you can call it anti-trend and trend at the same time, I think to look out for is the industry is splitting into two, in my opinion. And we've talked about it many times on the podcast before, but you have one part of the industry that is going down the regulatory route. So, and you usually see the major operators going down that route to become highly regulated, only pursuing regulated markets, whiter than white, and obviously you see a lot of publicly traded companies going down that path. It's probably a response to the industry is maturing more and more, as we talked about before as well, where locally regulated markets are kind of understanding what the online gambling industry is, regulating because of that. However, we are seeing this kind of first wave of regulation being quite disappointing, in the sense that you have a lot of over-regulation taking place in various jurisdictions. And as a response to that over-regulation, we are seeing the industry splitting into two, with the big players. They can absorb those costs and those hits, whereas the smaller players and even the medium players are forced to make a choice, essentially, either to go down the gray path and kind of remain in the unregulated environment, or to try to go into this regulated space. But we have seen some companies doing that and not to succeed in this really difficult space where the product is not as good anymore. It's being thwarted by regulatory requirements. Players are understanding more and more that if they're in a difficult jurisdiction and they choose to play at a regulated site, they don't have the same good kind of product experience. It's more friction to play. Maybe the RTPs or the sports betting odds are not as good as they can find in the unregulated space, and so it's really a difficult spot for a lot of operators to make this choice. A lot of operators want to be regulated and want to do the right thing, let's say, but they are being more and more pushed back into the gray space. So I think this is a very clear emerging trend that is taking place. You have operators that are whiter than white, and other operators that are operating outside of the regulated environment. And so this is specifically for 2024, where I think that the industry will become more polarized in that regard. But if we look forward into the future, I would imagine that eventually the regulators, they have to understand that this way of regulating is not good for the certainly not good for the players that are more and more finding themselves looking outside of regulation, and definitely not good for a good, robust framework or regulation overall, they need to listen to the industry better. They need to understand the industry better, because this is a partnership between the industry and the regulator. It cannot be the regulator punishing the industry, because the only thing they end up doing is punishing the operators that want to do the right thing. So I think as we're looking forward beyond 2024, we'll probably see that trend reversing, and we'll probably see more operators eventually being able to kind of seek their way into regulated environment again. So I think that's the kind of the overall kind of big trend that I would look out for, is this polarization that we see.
Okay, it's interesting. Today I read the news about Sweden. They published a report, and in this report they published that only 76% of casino players play in like regulated casinos. Exactly. So as I understand, what you're talking about is like about that, because
in Germany 50%, for example.
Yeah.
So the German is I don't know if you can use the word great, but it's a great unfortunate example of when regulation is does not have the intended consequences, where 50% of the German players are playing outside of the regulation today.
But they report that they have just 5% outside the regulation.
Yeah, they report themselves, yeah. And I would imagine they feel very proud over the fact that they can report this to their people who look at that report and so on. But it's absolutely not the case.
Yeah, but you see, still they're trying just to show that everything is okay, everything is fine.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like eyes closed and kind of like hope for the best. But and that's the problem that the industry has, is that we, especially on the European side, we aren't that good at establishing strong relationships with the regulators and the politicians and so on from a lobbying point of view. Whereas if we look over in North America, you have the American Gaming Association, one of the strongest political lobbyist organization in the entire US, right? They have been able to communicate together with the regulators in order to produce a much more sustainable regulation in that market. And that's where you see where the Americans, they don't really have that big of a problem over there. In terms of channelization rates like we have in Europe. We as an industry, we have to be much better at coming together and delivering a strong message to the regulators that, listen, this is what you need to do for this to work out the best for you. What we are doing right now is not protecting the players. It is not maximizing tax revenue. It is a regulation that is only benefiting those players who are outside of your regulation, basically.
You're right, yeah. So probably it's also like a trend, what we will see in the future, like.
Yeah, exactly. Industry coming together. Yeah.
Okay, anti-trends.
All right, we move on. Yes.
Yeah. Interesting thing. I would not speak a lot about that, but one very interesting thing, again, 3 years ago, I just came to this industry and I read some reports, some trends, at least what I found, and there were something about smartwatch gaming.
Smartwatch gaming.
Smartwatch.
Oh, so like actually playing gambling on the watch.
I guess this is like very clear anti-trend. And after that, I've heard a lot about that. Just industry is talking about that. Someone tried to implement something, but I believe it's something that will never work. Right. It's too small device, and the reason of this device existence is definitely not to gamble. Yeah.
No, exactly.
Not everyone. I believe that there were just one Steve Jobs who created from the phone like something new, but not watch. And then very interesting thing is like VR casinos.
Yes.
Why?
Yes,
VR is created, to get interesting experience. For example, if you want to race, probably you will buy this pretty expensive watch. Glasses. Sorry. You will buy these pretty expensive glasses, and you will get the experience. You will feel it. But in casino, what will you feel, for example? So I don't think that's interesting for players. Again, we should look from the players' perspective, from their insights, what do they want to get.
Yeah.
And when you look deeper into this, of course you will understand that VR casinos or smartwatch gambling is not something that it's really needed or interesting.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on the VR thing. And if we roll back the tape to 2015 or 2016 when the first Oculus glasses were released, then you tried it and you're like, oh my god, this is going to change the world. And at that time, if you would have gone to a gambling conference, there was like 1 year where like this is the biggest trend.
Everyone is
talking about VR casino, and you have like demos and the people building VR casinos. Oh my god, it's going to be incredible. And as you point out, because like it's so like counterintuitive to what the casino experience is. Like you go into a casino, and if you play a slot machine, you're looking at the screen.
Just screen.
So
yes.
why would you want to wear Oculus glasses just so that you can look at a screen inside Oculus when you can anyway just look at your screen? Like the experience is obviously much more
experience.
intuitive. Yeah, exactly. It's totally counterintuitive. However, I must say though that having, I'm one of those people that I've owned a Oculus headset for almost 10 years, and I've only used it, I don't know, 10 times maybe.
Really? Once per year?
Yeah, approximately, something like that. And this has been the experience of most people that have bought VR so far, is that the first time, it's so funny.
Exciting, very much.
The first time you try VR, you buy your glasses, you put them on, and you get this experience like, this is the most incredible thing I've ever experienced. Then you take them off, and you never use them again.
Yeah, so definitely not our trend.
Yeah, exactly. So like that, I agree with. Just in general, VR has not really been. It's like there in front of you, and but there's something that is not really clicking. However, I must say though that very few experiences I've tried in VR that impressed me, and one of maybe 3 experiences that impressed me is PokerStars VR, where you play poker. So that is an organic experience that actually has a function. So imagine this, in VR, you are transported into a poker table, kind of like where we're sitting now. You see the cards, you can lift the cards, and when you want to place a bet, you take the chips and you throw them in, and you are next to an actual person who is doing the same thing that you can speak to.
Okay.
And you would be surprised how much it feels like you are actually at the casino playing poker. It is pretty remarkable, actually, how that you feel that you are there, and you can strike up conversations and well played or whatever. Okay, oftentimes it's the opposite, that people are complaining. But anyway, it is a pretty remarkable experience, actually. But again, you do it and you're like, wow, this is super impressive. And then you never do it again.
Yeah, you did it once and forgot about that. You remember about nice feelings that you got, but that's it.
Yeah, exactly. And then another one is to play ping pong as well in VR. It's like, wow, this is incredible, But then if you like to play ping pong, you just go and play ping pong in real life,
Because it's more interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So interesting stuff, Valentina. Like, if we look at the emerging technologies, we talked a little bit about it already. You mentioned the cookieless future, a little bit about AI. Can you talk a little bit more, perhaps, on the emerging technologies that you are listing in the report as well?
No, I believe no. It's better to download the report and read. But in general, again, I will repeat one very simple thing. All emergent technologies, they should serve, first of all, they should be like an instrument to serve the needs of the players.
Yes.
That's why it's very important to understand the needs of the players. That's very important to understand which data we need to improve the experience of our players. And after that, just decide which technologies do you want to use to get to your target, So new technologies should be everything about understanding of consumers, players' needs. That's it. It can be used for marketing and can be used for improving player experience. It can be used for responsible gambling implementation, for everything in the gambling. But first of all, you need just to find what for, and then to understand which type of technology you need to use. For example, if you want to improve player experience, then use something like tournament tools or jackpot systems. If you want to understand better player behavior and predict player behavior, then use machine learning and different algorithms in machine learning. But again, first, the goal, what do you want? And then you decide which, because there are a lot of different technologies. We are in 2023, there are a lot of new technologies and they're emerging every day.
Yeah.
But to understand what to do, go and look first into your goals.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. As a sidetrack here, by the way, I remember now, as you do, when you are trying to build your own brand and you get excited and so on. When I read the report, I saw that you were listing your sources in the report, and so naturally, I searched for next of the day, or I give a next, and I saw that we were listed 4 times. We were referred in the report, and that made me a little bit proud. Then I went to check. IGB, the biggest portal, and they were also listed 4 times. So I'll take it. We are even level there. I give me next and I give me business. So I'm also curious, Valentina. We talked as well. We drew some parallels here to tobacco, alcohol, and coffee, the industries that you've been in before. Are there any other parallels that you can draw to the trends that we are seeing in the iGaming industry? To tobacco, alcohol, and coffee? We already covered a little bit, but do you have more thoughts on kind of like what the trends on a global level, like do they intersect some way? Is there any similarities you see?
I guess it's also pretty obvious, of course, as with tobacco and alcohol regulation, gambling regulation will also cover the world in some steps. So it will not happen, though it already happened with tobacco, already happened with alcohol, it will not happen immediately. It will take time. It will create problems. It will create a lot of dialogues between the government and the industry. It will help to unite the industry, as you said. But in general, still we will come to the situation when the market will be regulated with just small, like spheres, zones not covered by regulation. In general, we are just moving to regulation, maybe in 10 years, maybe in 15, but still.
Interesting. And Valentina, a final question for you here today is, what would you say, looking at the report and so on, like what are the 3 most important things for an operator to be aware of when navigating the organization through 2024?
First and the most important thing, all operators should read our report, I guess.
Okay, that's number 1.
This is very, very important thing, because it will help for them to understand a bit more, to be aware a bit more about the situation, about the situation in the gambling industry in general. Then I guess to learn and to understand the regulation environment better, because when you understand what is happening from this point of view, you can plan, you can make strategies how to develop your brands, your business. Of course, it's like very important thing. And the last thing, the third one after these 2, to understand players better. It's very important when you understand the needs of the players. And players are changing, their needs are changing. And we see it, for example, even we, being suppliers, see that something is changing in the behavior of players. So it's very important to understand, to collect more insights, to do research, to do different studies, to understand what players need, and then to do some steps in marketing, in product development, in game creation, just to correspond to players' need. Because if you do what players need, you will win. If you don't, you will not win. Very smart.
What a great way
I'm kidding.
What a great way to end the podcast here today, Valentina. It's 5:45 on a Friday evening here. We talked about working hard and smart here in the beginning, and I think we can round off not only the podcast but the week here together.
It's true,
and, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here, like always, Valentina.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much too. Bye. Have a nice weekend.
Yeah, thank you. You too.